In 1739, the British Empire, the most powerful navy on earth, declared war on Spain. The reason? A guy's ear, one single ear, cut off 7 years before anyone actually went to war over it. Yeah. Let's talk about the dumbest war in history, and how it somehow still makes a weird kind of sense. The War of Jenkins Ear. Meet Robert Jenkins, British merchant ship captain. The year is 1731. Britain and Spain are technically not at war, but they basically hate each other. Spain controls most of the Caribbean and South America, and they do not want British ships sniffing around their trade routes. So Spain has these guys called guardacostas, Coast Guard ships, whose entire job is to stop and search any ship they suspect of smuggling. One day, a Spanish captain boards Jenkins' ship. Maybe Jenkins was smuggling, maybe he wasn't. Nobody really knows. But the Spanish captain gets annoyed and does something extremely extra. He cuts off Jenkins' ear, tells him, "Go tell your king what I did to you, and that I'll do the same to him if he keeps stealing from us." Here's the thing. This happens in 1731. Jenkins goes home, and basically nothing happens for 7 years. Why? Because Britain and Spain were already annoyed at each other over trade rights, and frankly, one ear wasn't worth starting a war over. Not yet, anyway. But by 1738, tensions are boiling. British merchants are furious about Spanish ships searching and seizing their cargo. Parliament, specifically a political faction that wants war with Spain for trade reasons, needs a good story to whip up public outrage. And then somebody remembers, hey, didn't that one guy lose an ear like 7 years ago? Jenkins gets summoned to Parliament. The story goes that he showed up holding a jar, with his preserved ear inside, and dramatically presented it to the House of Commons. Historians actually aren't 100% sure this jar moment really happened, but it didn't matter. The story spread like wildfire. Newspapers ran with it. The public went nuts. They cut off an Englishman's ear, became the most powerful propaganda Britain didn't even have to make up. In October 1739, Britain officially declares war on Spain. But here's the part that proves this was never really about the ear. Britain had already been planning naval operations against Spanish colonies for trade reasons. The ear was just the excuse the public needed to get emotionally on board. The war becomes part of a much bigger global conflict. It eventually merges into the War of the Austrian Succession, dragging in basically every major European power. The most famous battle? The Battle of Cartagena de Indias in 1741. Britain sends a massive invasion fleet, like 180-plus ships and over 20,000 men, to take a Spanish port city in present-day Colombia. And it goes badly. Spanish defenders, led by a one-eyed, one-armed, one-legged admiral named Blas de Lezo. Yes, he was missing 3 limbs and still wrecked the British fleet. Hold the city. Disease wipes out thousands of British troops. The invasion fails completely. Some historians estimate Britain lost more men to disease in this disaster than they would in entire other wars. So how does the War of Jenkins Ear end? It just kind of fades into the larger War of the Austrian Succession and gets formally wrapped up by the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle in 1748. Spain keeps its colonies. Britain doesn't gain the trade access it wanted. Basically, nothing changes from before the war. Thousands of people died, tens of thousands more from disease. All because a political faction needed a good story to sell a war the public would have otherwise ignored. Here's the real lesson, and it's kind of unsettling. The ear didn't start the war. The ear was always just a tool. The actual causes, trade disputes, colonial competition, political ambition, were boring. Nobody marches to war over trade tariffs. But a guy's severed ear in a jar, that's a story people can get angry about. Which is honestly still how a lot of conflicts get sold to the public today, just with better PR. So next time someone tells you a war started over something small and dumb, ask what it was really about underneath. If you liked this, subscribe, emas. I'm covering more of history's dumbest decisions every week. Got a stupid war or weird historical event you want covered, drop it in the comments.